We're in the Bassmaster studio today talking to one of our Elite Series pros and a guy coming off of his first ever Bassmaster Classic berth, and that is none other than Hunter Shryock. Hunter, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today, and it's obviously got to be a little disappointing to be postponed and not at an event right now fishing, but it's also got to be refreshing knowing that we're trying to get the whole season done and you've got a little bit of breathing time after coming off your first Classic appearance.
Yeah, it's, without all the stuff that's happened, you can't control that. You know what I mean? It's just, it's one of those deals. But, man, the Classic, you know what I mean? My first time, and like, we went through this together, I feel like, how many times that I've wanted to get to the Bassmaster Classic. And it was such an awesome experience and just a great event. I'm kind of lost for words for it, but it was everything that I had envisioned and above being able to do.
Well, I knew that you had been close so many times to punching your ticket to a Classic through the Opens, which is probably one of the hardest ways to do it, is winning an Open to get to the Classic, and you had 3 or 4 top 3 finishes throughout one of your Open seasons. But you've punched it through the Elite Series points. That's got to be satisfying to do a whole resume, a year of work to make it. And then when you get there, was it exactly like you thought it'd be, the hustle and bustle, the crazy schedules, and then just trying to figure out how to catch bass on a changing fishery like Lake Guntersville?
You know, it was when you watch like the old classics and you're like trying to prepare yourself, you know, the music, the trumpets and the original Bassmaster Classic music, that dun 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 dun. Don't get me wrong, I don't know exactly how it goes, but that's like, it gives you chills to listen to that. And when you actually launch your boat and you're fishing the Bassmaster Classic, you don't hear that stuff. And you picture in your mind, like, that's what it's going to be like when you're rolling out on day 1, 2, or 3, like you're going to have that music. But, to finally get there. And then it's like, when you get out there, you're just like, I'm fishing. I'm fishing for an opportunity to win the most coveted trophy in all of bass fishing. And it's almost surreal when you do it. And all the hype is there, but when you get on the water, it kind of slows down. You know, obviously I wasn't leading the tournament to have that intensity, but I think that was probably the most, the coolest thing was like, you know what, it is just another day of fishing when you're out on the water doing it. It's like, you're just out there for another day.
Well, I know I used to get hyped up whether they would call Boat 87 and I would idle out, or they would, in college, Hank Weldon would announce Ronnie Moore and whoever I was fishing with. I know I would get pumped up for that, but that has to pale in comparison. It's probably this big compared to having Dave Mercer with 1,000 or 2,000 people at takeoff standing there as he yells out Hunter Shryock as you pull out. So what was that feeling? Did you have any kind of emotion? Like, did you want to, punch through a brick wall, or did you want to break down in tears as you got on pad to head to your first spot on day 1 of the Classic?
I think I did both. I think I did kind of shed a tear when I launched, because it's kind of, it's that moment and you've waited for it for so long that, here we are. And then at the same time, it's like, you got a job to do. Let's go, kick the door in, let's cave their heads in and really try to catch them. So it was a really strong mix of emotions. And I would say that probably the biggest thing, and, we've all prepared for this for months, for all of us that had qualified, pardon the guys that just qualified right before the Bass Nation, but the rest of us had been, we qualified through. We have months to get ready for Guntersville. All my tackle, everything's ordered. I've had it all done before 2020 ever started. But probably the biggest thing that caught me off guard was the amount of sleep that you got on media day and through the event. And everybody tells you it's going to be the busiest week. And it really was kind of normal through practice and official practice. But once we hit official practice, and then we have the champions dinner, obviously Scott Canterbury, AOI champ, doing his thing that night. And then the next day we got media day, do all your tackle, and then it's boom, boom, boom. And we, all of us probably running on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And that really starts to wear on you. Like, I can go 1, 2 days, 4 or 5 hours of sleep, but you really start to lose your mental sharpness 3, 4, 5 days with just 5 hours of sleep. That's just me. I know some people can do it better than others, but I need to have my 7, 8 hours of sleep. And if I was to do it again, planning for 2021, Bassmaster Classic, I'm probably not going to take as much time to nitpick over all of my tackle, because that would be one thing that I'd do every night is I'd go through all my rods. Even if I didn't catch a fish on it, I was retying everything. More times than not, though, it's good to go. How many times do you go out and practice with an old rod that you hadn't rigged up in 2, 3 weeks or a month, and then all of a sudden, you go out there and you catch fish on it without retying 4 or 5 times. So if I was to do it over again, limit the amount of tackle that I'm doing and really prioritize sleep.
Well, and that's the thing about the Classic. There's so many extremes with not only just all of the events going on in media, but the tournament itself happening in that late February to mid-March time period these days. Fish are changing daily. So tell me about your pattern, because it was one that was pretty extreme.
Absolutely, and you nailed it right on the head. Guntersville, Tennessee River, any body of water in February and March, them fish are moving so much. They're so unpredictable on where they're going to be at the next day or the following week. So, practicing a week ahead of time, I knew going into it that I wanted to really commit to that ultra shallow. That's what I like to do. Shallow grass or winding, a bladed jig around some of that, 1 to 2 foot of water, which is a dominant pattern at Guntersville at the beginning of March. But having the cold that we had, it was trying. The water was really cold, starting the week off in the high 40s and then working its way up. And the forecast had predicted that we was going to get a bunch of rain right after practice, which is a big deal on on Guntersville itself, because that water level, it's a really flat, river system. It's, you get a couple inches in there, it's going to bring the water up a bunch for them fish to get up under those grass mats and stuff. And that's kind of what I was targeting. I was targeting the grass mats, primrose, really just shallow vegetation in general. The big key, though, is that water level, having enough water to have, them fish to be comfortable up there. And obviously the water temperature. And as the week went on, we didn't get the amount of rain that was predicted, but the water temperature did come up. So I was fully committed to that ultra shallow game, because I knew that if that water did come up and all of the stars, everything aligned, it was a dynamite way to go out and consistently catch that 18 to 22 pounds. I don't know if you're going to catch a giant 30-pound stringer doing it, but I felt like if you had a couple areas, you could go in there and, catch you some 4 and 5 pounders every single day. And it got me through the first day. And it really only happened in like 2 hours that I caught, 18 pounds. And I figured that if I changed my rotation days, 2 and hopefully 3, that I would stumble into that same deal, if not better. And the cold nights really started to, put a hinder on them. And the water level dropped just a little bit. It wasn't a whole lot, but it had fluctuated like nearly an inch or 2. But that's all it takes this time of the year when them fish are up there that shallow. And there's only so many of them up there committed anyhow because of how early it was. It was just it was a high risk, high reward deal. But Hank Cherry won the Bassmaster Classic throwing a jerkbait, and Hunter Shryock was not going to win the Bassmaster Classic doing something that, being uncomfortable throwing a jerkbait. I was going to catch him flipping, doing something, throwing a bladed jig that I'm, confident in doing. So that's what I stuck with and rode that horse till the end.
So before we move on from the Classic, you were like the farthest north angler on Guntersville, it seemed, or you were up there about as far as everyone went. Did you go up there to get away from people, or because the water was higher up there, or was that just where the most grass mats were for you? Because there's probably a lot of factors why you chose it, but was there just so much pressure on the grass down south at Mid-Lake that you wanted to get away and maximize bites, or did you just want fish to yourself?
Really, it was a combination of both. I would say the biggest thing that drawed me up there was just the amount of bites that I got. It was a really tough practice. And you ask anybody, there's a lot of guys that just didn't have a good practice. I don't think really anybody was super confident coming out of practice. And at the end of it, I'm like, I sat back and looked at my Lowrance units, and I'm like, okay, where's the most, concentration of bites that I've had? And it wound up there on the north end of the lake. Now, notoriously, it's not usually one up there, but who's to say that this wasn't the year that could have happened? And that's what I stuck with. And those fish were super, super finicky. And we seen it on live where I would flip in, punch in that shallow grass, and it's a foot or 2 foot, and they would eat it and drop it. And as the event went on, that kept happening more and more, where the first day they were more committed to it. And I was just flipping that little creature bait, the bunker hog. I'm sorry, it's the power bait max scent, and that's a big deal for a punching bait. And I talk about it, but I try not to allude too much about it, because when them fish are under them mats and they get something that's actually real and they hold on to it, that's when you can catch them so much better. And I had to get to that bunker hog, the max scent. They held on to it great. So that was one key. But like I said, I felt like just the shallow bite dried up for me, and it is what it is.
Well, it obviously got you enough fish to make it to the final day of the Classic and have a shot to just fish, make some more money, and also have a shot. You never know at Lake Guntersville, if you go into the final day in 10th, 12th, 13th, you just don't know what you could catch that day and where you could move. But I'm gonna change gears a little bit, and I don't want you to be mad at me, but a lot of people are probably wondering, if they haven't looked at your video series, or even if they did, talk to me about the St. Johns River. Because I was one of the guys who picked you in fantasy fishing, and after day one with 0, I was like, did he break down? Did he get to fish? There's no way in Florida Hunter Shryock catches nothing on day 1 at St. John's, but you did, and then you rebounded on day 2. So walk me through that, starting your season off with tough conditions, cancellation, postponement, and then a 0, and how you could rebound from that.
Yeah, what a roller coaster ride that event was. And you, of all people, know how excited I get to go to Florida, yet alone on the St. Johns River. And then obviously the first 2 days we had the wind delays or cancellations of the first 2 days postponed it. And so moving the event till Saturday, and I had fished in the southern part of the St. Johns River, getting down there around all the canals and stuff. And I had basically an area that was a big flat, and that's where I had my most bites. Same thing as Guntersville. I went to the place that had the most concentration of bites, and didn't realize how much that wind had affected the whole system, because when you put your boat in the water in the morning, you could see the bank in places, in sandbars that wasn't there ever before. I've never seen that system that low, and that south wind had pushed all the water out of that tidal river and literally drained the flat that I was fishing. It still had water on it, and that's what I ran to first, got a bite instantly, and then proceeded to not get anything for like another hour. Now, making that long run, getting down there, by the time I realized that the area was basically a wash because them fish had backed out, I'm like, full on scramble mode. And we had local derbies going out of Astor. We had another event, guys practicing, and really the wheels just came off the bus. I can't, no excuses. Guys caught them that day, and the wheels came off the bus for me. And, just to even just catch a single, 12-inch fish to take the weigh-in didn't make it happen. Pretty unbelievable day for me. Every angler, that's a nightmare for us. You don't catch anything. It demoralizes you basically. And I just went back. I'm like, where did those fish go day 2? Yeah, or for day 2, where can I even fish? I went to the same areas. I fished near the same stuff. I just fished near the breaks where those fish basically sucked out to, and ended up catching 12 pounds. Salvaged a good bit of AOI points, which is huge. But yeah, just started off the year with drama. for the 24/7 series, which is on YouTube. You can check it out, Hunter Shryock Fishing. But yeah, we dug ourselves in a hole basically right off the bat, and we have to make that our worst event of the season for Angler of the Year, for qualifying for the Classic. That's got to be our worst event. So it is disheartening, but you know, we got the rest of the season to put that behind us, and I'm really, really looking forward to just getting that next event started.
Well, and that's one thing that a lot of people have trouble with, even people watching this stream right now, if you're just joining us with Hunter Shryock, is having that tough practice. Maybe you don't get a bite in practice at all, and then you're going into an event the next day. What do you do? And so to see you adjust and move out to little areas just nearby your main spot, that's important to know. And 12 pounds might not seem like a lot, but when 4 guys zero on day one, a lot of guys have 1 or 2 fish for 4, 5, maybe 6 pounds. 12 pounds jumped you up over 22 spots. And not only did it get you extra points, it got you points in period, because 0 on the board gets you 0 points. So Hunter, where else can people find you on social media if they want to look? We know YouTube with the 24/7 series, but where else are you pumping out content these days?
We got Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All of them are Hunter Shryock Fishing. You can check them out there. But no, I thank you guys for having me on here. It's been a blast. Like I said, the Classic was phenomenal, and love the work you guys are doing, and ready to just kick this bug to the curb and get back to fishing, right?
That sounds good with me. I want you to be in your camper, not at your house. No offense to your house, but I know that you'd rather be out in your camper on the road fishing Bassmaster Elite Series events. So we'll see you at the next one. Hopefully it'll be in early April. If not, we will make the best plans we can for going forward for the 2020 season. But that's Hunter Shryock. Thank you for joining me, man.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. You guys take care.